Entrepreneurship, it's all game. The Big Potato Podcast is yours to claim. From startups.
And welcome back, folks, to the Big Potato Podcast. That's right. You know, this is your platform where we empower entrepreneurs for today's business environment and business world. And of course, yours truly, Kendell. I'm here. My co-host Stuart. Stuart, how it going?
They know me. Always good. Always happy. No matter what the newspapers might try to depress you with the news, right? They might always try to confuse you, but you must always stay positive, always stay focused on, and optimistic, and just sometimes what we do, stay on our corner and mind our business, right?
And
focus on our goals.
Keep it going.
Yeah, keep it going. But
I really appreciate you for mentioning positive mindset and the emotionality of everything, because our guest tonight is going to talk a lot about that as well. We have a very special guest, as usual, for you guys. We bring the heat, as we say, to the Big Potato Podcast, where we really try to help all entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, whether it be young in age or perhaps just young in your business cycle and experience. All right, so we're bringing it together tonight, as usual. Please go subscribe to the Big Potato Podcast on all podcasts, wherever you catch your podcasts, on all platforms right now. We did a lot of extensive work over the last few weeks to make sure that we positioned very well. So for all podcast lovers out there, make sure and share it. And if you'd like to get in contact, send us an email to the bigpotatopodcast@gmail.com.
when you say all, we're like Amazon Music,
Apple,
iHeart, and all these
of course,
platforms.
we are there.
Everywhere?
We are everywhere right now. So share it. Right. No matter where you are, your friends are, your families are in the world, wherever they may get their podcast, share it with them, because this information is vital. So without further ado, let's get into it. Our special guest tonight, I like to leave the name for last before I love to give some of the credentials first. And I mean, when I looked through the bio, I didn't even know where to start, where to select from. All right. He is a leadership technologist. Imagine that, leadership technologist. I love that. Dual master's degrees in strategic thinking and e-business, a former C-suite executive, and of course now he's a leadership coach, amongst many other hats that he wears as well, where he's very successful. He works with CEOs and senior leaders and entrepreneurs globally, of course, in more than 70 nationalities. He would have spoken and given speeches and so on across the world, in the US, the UK, Africa, India, the Middle East, Canada, the Caribbean, just to name a few. And of course, well, that spans the globe, not even to name a few. He's created the world's first AI leadership assistant, which I'm very, very interested in terms of hearing more about that. Also, the inventor of Meta B leadership technology, which is neuroscience in leadership, really and truly, to help to really advance and inform leadership shift and transformation. All right. So, I mean, he's the author of Future Ready Leadership as well. And I love this part. When I looked on the website, he said that book is unputdownable. Unputdownable. So, I mean, I love it. Specializes in helping people lead better and perform higher in their lives and, of course, in their businesses and careers. So, I mean, without further ado, let me welcome our very special guest tonight, Mr. Shane Ram. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Hello, I'm doing fantastic, Kendell and Stuart. So happy to be here to share with your audience. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. The pleasure is all ours. I mean, we've been in contact, I think, from our previous season.
Yes.
And, it's nothing happens before time. I think the time is ripe now for leadership discussion in terms of entrepreneurship and business development. So with that being said, Mr. Ram, we definitely are glad to have you, and we want to get the ball rolling one time, because we don't want to waste a minute of this podcast. So let's jump into the first segment, which is called What Caught Our Eye. And my co-host Stuart, he will go first tonight to jump inside of what caught his eye this week, and we're interested to hear your views on it.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the world is spinning at a pace, right? And we can't get caught up. But what caught my eye, one of the millions of things that caught my eye, I'll focus on this one because this one is positive. As you said earlier, positive. The future of Caribbean business leadership in a changing world. All right, so what this article, which is really an article from the Caribbean C-suite, and it was published on the 24th of December, a good day as well, right? Christmas Eve,
Right.
2024. Some of the key points I will pull from is the fact that they mentioned the Caribbean is undergoing a leadership renaissance right now in terms of how leadership itself is defined. So they've moved away from the traditional, managing capital and so it's more about right now. It's more about mobilizing people, technology, and purpose to build resilient, equitable, and globally relevant Caribbean. A globally relevant Caribbean. So this is really important to me. What we tried, the article said, is that they're trying to rewrite the entire script from how we go from more the colonial system would have had us, given us some serious obstacles to overcome, and our way of dealing with leadership and management, although they're two separate things, wouldn't have been the best. But
a command and control.
Yes.
type.
So right now we're shifting that entire paradigm. So the C-suite, and I really want to refer to this and quote it because it's such good information. Right now the leaders are infusing digital strategy into their operations, championing environmental and social governance, and seeing regional integration not as a political aspiration, but as a commercial imperative. It's not about trying to get political power in your country, but it's really about the commercial power of that the leaders could really pull out of our people. That commercial imperative. And another piece I really want to focus on is that the Caribbean's most forward-thinking executives are embracing a new currency, collaboration.
I saw that.
Right. So Trinidad is as we always say, a dot on the map. Depending on how small the scale the map, you might even see that dot, right? That is show you how small we are. So we have to collaborate. It's not about Trinidad, Jamaica, Guyana. It's really the archipelago. I'm embarrassing myself. Yeah.
The archipelago.
The archipelago of islands coming together and collaborating, to not to form the traditional economic bloc, but to really, again, as leaders within this region, to be able to present a Caribbean identity and be able to be comfortable on a Davos stage, as well as on a shop in St. Lucia Village, St. Lucian Village. That type of leader is what we in the Caribbean trying to promote right now and have been promoting since, they said, for the last year or so. That's really been the focus of the C-suite executives. Creating that environment where leaders, again, not just focused on managing capital and checking to see how your stock performing, but really these points I mentioned as well.
More all-encompassing.
Again, we mentioned in the interview with Paul, our Caribbean, this is our strength, our superpower. So I'm just happy with the fact that we are coming together and we realizing that, and we coming together as a unified front in this volatile world. The leaders right now becoming so much more flexible in the Caribbean. We moving away from that old colonial system of leadership. So I'm saying a lot in this segment. This segment is supposed to be a short segment.
Short one, don't forget. And we definitely want to hear Mr. Shane Ram's take on this as well.
Yes. So I'd love to hear your feedback, both yourself and Mr. Ram's feedback.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think the whole idea of collaboration is going to be critical, and I'm glad to see that we are speaking more about this, but it's really about moving from speaking to taking action. It's been over 20 years that we've been talking about the global village, and the world has become so small, and I lament that the Caribbean was still trying to be very, very individualistic and each country trying to find their own path where there is a need for greater collaboration in the region. And up to, I think, very recently, you would have heard in the news that, the opposition, I believe, in St. Lucia was speaking about St. Lucia breaking away again. So you still have that to deal with individual minds. And hopefully the power of the collaboration is stronger than the individual minds that we have that might dissent from that. It is a challenge with so many different countries and maybe leadership styles and that personal sense of success, I think, has been the thing that keeps back the Caribbean integration, where each leader, each country is trying to strive for their own success, not really understanding that we could have greater success if we work together. And quite recently, I've been working with quite a few Caribbean organizations, Caribbean-wide organizations, and quite frankly, they have been lamenting the same thing. And one of the things I find very interesting, not only here in Trinidad, but in the Caribbean, when you sit in a room with the people who you think are the decision makers and the policy makers, for example, they're the ones often complaining, about, the problem, and what speaks to the absolute power that governments have in a lot of the regions to make these final decisions in order to progress the region. And that seems to be one of our setbacks, where the imagination of the region is left up to the so-called leaders. But we know that process of how we got there really isn't about the vision that they create and get people to buy in, and how people select leaders, especially in a political landscape, does not always lend to what we're trying to achieve as a particular region. So those are my thoughts on it. Very important, but we have a lot of challenges in being able to get there.
Well, again, it's not about a political aspiration. As you said again there, it's about commercial imperative. It's not about you scoring your points. It's about us as a team winning.
Yeah.
As one.
As one.
Perfectly said. And I mean, we are sports lovers here, and we understand the nature of collaboration, and especially for entrepreneurs, you may start on your own, and this is where you need to collaborate with and network with other entrepreneurs, with other people who have certain resources, etc., to help to boost your businesses, etc. Like I'll pick it up from you there.
Yeah.
So very interesting. And I mean, I would want to segue into my what caught my eye this week. And this one is actually a little more technological, because we have the leadership technologist online with us tonight. And it's an article which I saw on Business Insider as I was preparing, and I actually saw it on some information on it on some other sites as well. And it was saying, could AI be your next career coach? Could AI be your next career coach, right? And I mean, I think it lends to what we want to talk about a bit tonight as well. And a company called Better Up, they are pushing a product right now. They are a virtual coaching company. And they are pushing a product right now called Better Up Grow. It is an AI-powered coaching assistant. It offers real-time guidance and for tailored roles, preferences, and of course, company culture. So basically, they take all of the learnings and how the AI works, and they put it into the machine really and truly, along with your personal profile from probably appraisals and different tests that they run on you. And the company culture is put in there, everything is put in there, and they have this tool, right? And why does it matter? Traditional professional coaching is expensive and sometimes limited. And I think we have all worked in the corporate world here. And far often your leaders or HR or whoever may say, all right, well, we're going to get a coach for you, we're going to get a coach or a mentor or something like that. And from my experience, that is fine coming sometimes, depending on which level of the organization you are in. And what this is doing is kind of leveling the playing field for those who, may not be able to afford it on their own, or who the company may deem as not really the person they want to spend it on. In early rollouts, 11 companies implemented it. I think Unilever was one of them as well. And 95% of the users reported satisfaction, and 16% experienced improved confidence. What is important as well is, just as we've always been saying, the AI has to be used, at least still at this point, with some human intervention and interaction. And a number of the users preferred, 51% to be exact, a blend of the AI and human approach, where you will have the AI approach and up to a level, and if you would like to escalate into something more detailed, it would then go to more of a human approach, where it is you could get to speak to a real coach. So I think that this really caught my eye, actually, because, and then in terms of researching our guest tonight, I know that this one would be very close to his business and so on. And I believe that with time, we're going to see a lot more of these sort of platforms and programs rolled out in companies. So as entrepreneurs, my favorite word,
opportunity.
What can we do? So Mr. Ram, what do you think about this?
I think that what you said in terms of that combination of AI and the human factor, for now, where AI is still going to be very, very important, because, part of coaching is, a big part of coaching is obviously communication. Okay, so if you're typing stuff into AI, hoping that it analyzes stuff, that is going to be important. But for example, as a coach, unless they utilize the cameras and it prompts certain responses and people speak to it, you're really not getting all of the communication.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So for example, if I'm coaching an entrepreneur and I throw out a potential target and I see their eyebrows raise, okay, that tells me that figure is beyond their current belief and mindset system. See, I'm sure AI will get there to be able to pick that up, but those are some of the nuances and the communication that AI, I believe, will eventually be able to pick up, and probably even be more proficient at it at individuals, because in the coaching space as well, it's just an unregulated marketplace, I call it. Anybody who could afford it could become one. And so if you could put a structure around the process and utilize AI to do that, which is what I have really done with my leadership AI assistant. I basically take people through certain sets of questions which I've automated via the AI assistant, so that it gets us a certain progress along. I mean, sometimes I have an online course that also came out before the AI, and people have used it with dramatic results. I've seen people who have been very, very shy and to just doing that online course alone, and just coming out full blown into social media, expressing themselves, writing blogs, writing articles, just by going through that process via an online course, which, as I said, I've replicated that process with the use of AI. On your point of people chosen for mentorship and coaching, I think that's a really important point, but very sad, I would say, is that organizations really don't understand the power of coaching. So those same organizations will fund an MBA, which probably could be more expensive than a coaching program.
Oh, yeah.
And the coaching program is going to yield a greater return on investment than an MBA. So a lot of people are just doing rote stuff without really thinking about it. And that's a great point. I mean, I've been trying to sort of lobby to get organizations to understand the power of coaching. For example, in the US, it is said that executive coaching is a secret weapon of Fortune 500 companies, right? And it sells secret, and the best place to hide a secret is in plain sight,
Plain
right?
view,
So
right?
coaching is all over the place, and people are still not seeing the value of
Exactly. And I mean, it to your point, really and truly, we have to develop that mindset and that culture. I saw it in another article where they mentioned that even at the university level, they are starting to adopt it in particular universities as well. So I think that the nature of coaching, I guess the whole gambit of the rewards and that you could benefit from, has been well ventilated, of course, by persons like yourself and others around.
I like to take a different angle.
Of course.
On the grand scheme, I like to understand how resources are used. And to me, it's like tech bros being tech bros again, always inventing things that already exist. Right? So my main concern in going back to the AI impact on it, the trust. You have to really believe this AI will be giving your employees the best information, the most accurate information, because AI is in its learning stages right now. And even when it becomes improved, they will always have glitches. They will always need to have some human element to guide it and to make sure the right information is going out. Because it's a horrible example, but recently there was a chatbot character AI, I believe, and one of the characters was Daenerys. Well, I shouldn't, probably for the copyright, but it was a Game of Thrones character. And the character encouraged a 14-year-old boy to commit. I don't even want to say the word, but he's no longer with us, right? So you never know what information going out through the AI, through the bot, and you, as the user, you are assuming the best.
Yes.
You're assuming this thing has gone through the rigorous testing and quality control, and so you will believe, especially if it's something that your company paying a license for. And this is an official company back venture, and this is part of the training regimen. You need to really, the user, the consumer, the worker will believe that this is correct information at all times. So I just see,
especially when you're mandated to use it, right?
That is the company guidelines. So this is what we're doing moving forward.
Yes.
So there's that risk, but I mean, I love the upscale. As from the business side of it, there's a lot of upscale in terms of you could start off with the AI as the entry point, and then you upsell to deal with the human. It's like deal with whatever minor issues. But then again, tech bros doing tech bros things, reinventing things that already existed. So I would just leave it as that.
I guess this is the era that we live in, and we need to find the opportunities as entrepreneurs where we could solve these problems, because that is what the purpose of entrepreneurship
and
is.
Is it really solving a problem?
Well, is it filling a gap? The one major gap I will say is that it is serving an underserved audience group. and bringing some equity, I think, to something that is necessary, because at times, as I said, opportunities are missed for persons not to get the coaching that they need in order to develop in their
whether
own
be
careers.
A remote worker, whether be a new employee, you haven't found your mentors yet. At least there's a system where it could easily orient it to the system.
Correct. So, folks, that's it for our first segment. What caught our eye? Brought to you by IBOMAQ. Remember to give us your thoughts and perspectives as well on what we discussed tonight. Feel free to drop a comment on our episode, or as you say, send us an email as well. From Ibadan to Helyard, from slavery to independence, learn how Helyard, the Trinidad All-Stars, created the Trini identity and how that was leveraged for our independence. Get your copy on Amazon now. We're back on the Big Potato Podcast. Interesting interview tonight with Mr. Shane Ram, and of course, yours truly, Kendell, and my co-host Stuart, taking you guys through it as usual. We empower entrepreneurs for today's business world. It's light-hearted discussion, but with key business insights. So, let me ask, Mr. Ram, your transition from C-suite leadership. I mean, C-suite, for those who don't know, you're talking about the real creme de la creme up there in the nice offices, designated parking spaces.
All the chiefs.
All the chiefs.
All the jefes.
The jefes. That's what the C is for, where the air is rare, as they say. And moving away from that and transitioning into Go for 10 and also into your leadership and mentoring and coaching career. What was that like? What sort of mindset and strategies were essential for a leap such as that?
Great question, Kendall. So I had a moment. People sometimes have a moment, and it was in 2008. The economy had slowed down considerably. Thank God, I still had that, C-suite job with as you said, all the nice perks. Fully paid up Mercedes-Benz, nice parking spot, etc., etc. But in the HR department, they tend to get the cut, so to speak, when you have tough economic times. So what I was doing essentially slowed down, and I was really grateful that the company decided that they were going to keep us, freeze our salaries, and hold on to our jobs, but certain things within the organization had to get cut. So it was one day on the golf course. Actually, I was playing by myself, and all of those perks that you described, Kendall, I had, and the thought that I had was, this might be somebody's dream life, but not mine. Right? That I felt like there was more that I had to contribute in this world. Right, more than I could have done within that job, and I'm really very grateful for all of those experiences, because all of those experiences, led to who I am and who I have been. Okay, so no experience is lost, even in transferring from executive to entrepreneurship. One of the critical mindsets, Kendall and Stuart, was that there's a story I told myself, right? And it's important in coaching that I talk about, the stories that we tell ourselves, because it dictates our behavior. Mm-hmm. So what I said to myself, or I came to the realization that I came to this world with nothing. I leave with nothing. So I really have nothing to lose. Right, so that was one of the mindsets that I had. I was able to make some sacrifices. I'm smiling because I could hear some of my friends. I traded in the company's Mercedes, and I borrowed my dad's Almira, and some of my friends were like, Shane, that's not you. And I said, you're correct. That's the car. That's not me. It doesn't define who I am. So the ability to understand self, to be able to make sacrifices, to forget what everybody else says in the world, and believe it or not. I'm glad that you picked up on emotionality, because it is so critical, right? And the greatest emotion that we have is fear. And the greatest fear that we have is what other people think about us. Mm-hmm. So a lot of entrepreneurs, people who want to be entrepreneurs, they don't go out into it because perhaps they'd fail, and they're worried about what their friends who stayed in that cushy job would say. Okay, and I found those were one of the things that keep people back from, making that leap from, employee to entrepreneur, as the case may be. And the stories people tell themselves. So those were some of the stories particular to me that I had to overcome. And the negative stories were there, but I had to, I think there's a very purposeful and spiritual part to it. And that's why in my 4 core of entrepreneurial success, I speak about emotionality, I coach about purpose, mindset, and strategy. Okay, so those are the 4 elements that I take people through, because, you might have heard that 80% of success in anything is mindset and psychology, and 20% strategy. You still need the strategy, but a lot of the work I focus on is on the individual's mindset and emotionality. They're 2 very different things, and we could get into that if you want to talk about it. But those were some of the things that I thought about, and the mindset that I had in terms of leaving. I felt it was purposeful. I felt it was something bigger that I had to do in this world. And really and truly, all of those perks were the the jail that we create around ourselves that keep us back from our highest potential.
Comfort zones.
Well, what I want to know is, I mean, you obviously look like about 35 years old. So back in 2008, you would have been like 12.
A teenager.
How my question is, how you at such a young age could have, firstly, been in the C-suite, and then secondly, come to that mature realization.
Right. Yeah, that's a great observation, Stuart. And I did get into the C-suite relatively early at the age of 30. And I would say that I had great mentorship from when I had my second job. So I spent, and I don't know if it was deliberate or luck, but, I spent my first 6 months, and then I left a permanent job to go to a temporary job. And I've done that quite a few times in my life, right? But when I left that permanent job for a temporary job, that temporary job did turn into a permanent job. But I had the best mentor boss that I could have had, anyone could have had at a very early age in my career and everything like that. And I really would suggest that for a lot of young people. The degrees are fine, but with AI, they're becoming less and less relevant. It's about skill set. It's about what you can do, and less about your knowledge. And but, I had great leadership. I had great mentorship, someone who, and I remember I started on the first working day of that particular year, and I was sitting around and we were planning, and, I thought, I was very junior, but, my boss asked me, so what do you think? Even something like that.
What do I think?
Wow, somebody wants my opinion, right? That I'm junior, but I just had the opportunity to look at someone who had an incredible work ethic, someone who just really wanted me to win. I felt like she wanted me to win, and I'll give you a quick example of that. So very future thinking. So we had someone who was a retiree running the training and development department. And after 1 year, she was like, Shane, that's really not going anywhere. We need some young, fresh blood. Would you, take up that mantle? And I said, yes, right? So at that age, when you're, 20 to 30, I just recommend that you just say yes to everything. Right? Right? I came into the company to customize a human resource information system, and then thrown into training. And then, but I remember giving me the resources. We had an external consultant who says, there's this conference. It was in San Francisco that year, the American Society for Training and Development. I think you should send Shane, and she said, of course, go. And every time I went, however, I brought back something, I implemented something, so there was a return on investment. Yes. It wasn't just, it was a nice trip. San Francisco is a beautiful city, etc. But, bringing back the knowledge, implementing, and that gave me the opportunity to go again and to go again. And in becoming the training coordinator, we had 3 facilities in different locations. And I remember this was when, cell phones were new, and it was a thing, and it was only reserved for executive management, right? So I was like HR assistant 3, training coordinator, right? That was my job title. So I was like, it'll be really beneficial to have a phone. But, the story I told myself, well, I wouldn't qualify for it. So I explained to my boss why I would need one. And I actually asked for a pager. Right. And then she said, but you'll get a page, but you can't make a call, if you're on the road between these 3 locations. And she said, you know what? Here's what to do. You go take out, your own phone plan and bring in the bills, and I'll pay for them. And that was like close to 30 years ago, guys. And I still remember that because I saw somebody who was trying to help me to win, trying to, augment the policy, and she would say, policies are not, cast in concrete. They're guides in terms of how you do things, and guided in a way that, there was a win-win situation that didn't, breach any policies. And, Shane didn't have a company-sponsored phone when it was only for the upper echelons, right? But that person
Reserved.
who really wanted me to win. So I tell people I had a unfair advantage starting, but that unfair advantage,
Right.
great leader, a great mentor. And I just, lapped up everything. I said yes to everything, learned, implemented. And then, being in the training and development, the department and role, I would organize the training. So I would sit at the back of the room and listen to these expert presenters present and share their ideas. And I was just like a sponge absorbing everything. And then being able to put that into practice and act it out. And that's what got me into that, C-suite at the age of 30, really learning, implementing, having that confidence. And that's why I believe so much in mentorship and coaching. It's the only cheat sheet there is to success.
Yeah.
The only
Understood.
is coaching and mentorship. I could tell you that.
And they're passing it forward.
Yep.
That's what we need to do as leaders. And I'm very happy that you shared that anecdote, because I mean, a lot of our audience, whatever stage of your career you are at, and whether you're on your own as an entrepreneur or you're possibly working in a company as well as an employee, the investment of leaders into their teams, really and truly, not just the financial investment, but really and truly, as Shane mentioned, they're taking the time to mentor, taking the time to coach, is leadership. Far often persons have the titles and they're this manager, that manager, this manager. But what we need more of is more leaders. Yeah. And, more of the right type of leaders who will see that those who are in their span of care deserve also to be uplifted and upgraded, and in whatever fashion they can assist. If they could provide the rooms for them to sit in, the opportunities for them to present something, to have a voice. These are very critical things while people are still in that development stage.
Yeah, and it's up to the person themselves to make the right decisions and say yes.
Say yes.
And, make the sacrifices, because people who don't have to invest in you, taking a risk, they covering the bill for the phone.
Yeah.
Not below the table, we do these investments because we want you to succeed, as Mr. Ram said. So it's up to you. It's both parties have to cooperate.
Two hands to clap, as we say.
Clap. But I love what I'm hearing. I love it.
I mean, I want to jump straight into it one time, as you mentioned it, because it's shining all through what you're saying as well in terms of mindset and emotionality. Because as Stuart said, you have to have the right mindset to receive, but also you have to have the right mindset to give and be in that emotional space. We hear the term emotional intelligence being used so often right now these days. It's almost like the word innovation. So what is really the definition of it, and how could we as leaders, especially as entrepreneurs, because leadership is key for entrepreneurs, how could we embrace it, and how could we really develop ourselves more in that arena?
Great question. So I want to say that, let's just take an entrepreneurial point of view, right? Where the symptoms of the lack of emotional intelligence or emotionality work or mindset really are people who suffer from imposter syndrome. I've heard that so much recently.
Yes.
People who play small instead of playing big. People who what they call self-sabotage, for example. People who doubt themselves and their capabilities, right? So I remember I had those. Who am I to to speak to global leaders? Who am I to share the stage with Malcolm Gladwell? Who am I to pair and meet the original shark from Shark Tank? I'm just a cool guy from from Gasparillo in Trinidad, right? So all of those stories that we have, those are symptomatic of a deeper emotional issue, and a lot of people have been shying away from it. But the fact is that those are symptoms of a greater root cause, and the root cause is that we've all, I don't think there's anyone who has escaped hurt, regret, shame, anger, trauma, as the case may be, resentment. Okay. And when we haven't processed that, that shows up as these traits, maybe let's say in leadership, lack of delegation. You know, they don't want to delegate because they're fearful, and fear is an emotion.
Yep,
okay, when you think about it, they're fearful to delegate. They're fearful to give feedback. Why? It's their fear what other people might think about them.
Yeah.
Okay, because they give feedback. They fear getting into conflict with people because they see conflict as something as negative, and then they're not able to manage conflict in their teams. They're not able to build teams as a whole. So that's how emotionality or lack thereof shows up in leadership. In entrepreneurship, it shows up as playing small instead of playing big, doubting oneself, imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, all of those things, not being able to come up with content. All of those things are symptomatic of not really dealing with emotionality. And I want to share a great quote because I hear a lot of people in the personal development world speak about it, but it seems as though they have sort of thrown up their hands because people are not really understanding it. And Robin Sharma says this. He says that you can do all the mindset work that you can do, but if you don't work on your emotionality, what he calls heart set, to deal with that hurt, resentment, trauma, disappointment, whatever, you're setting up yourself for serious self-sabotage. And that's why I said to you before, there's a really big difference between mindset and emotionality.
And I mean,
right?
I love the quote.
People think that they're working on mindset and they forget the emotionality, and that's the thing that keeps people back from their success. I guarantee you that 100%. And that's why I start with every entrepreneur that I work with. Let's process those things. Let's understand how it shows up in your life, because nobody has escaped it. And a lot of times, when you process it, out of it comes your purpose, right? And purpose doesn't have to be something, actually it's not something that you do. And when I do purpose work, it's very, very different from what most people think purpose is. So when I ask people, and how I know, a quick test to figure this out, but I have a deeper process when I do coaching, is, tell me your goals. What do you want to achieve? And I asked them, well, okay, I want to start my own business. Okay, what is that going to give you? Well, I'm at a ceiling in my job. I feel there's so much more I can do. Okay, you can do more, you can gain more. Okay, and I'll take better care of my family. And I said, okay, if you're able to take better care of your family, what is that going to do for you? Well, I'll feel a sense of satisfaction. I could guarantee you every time I ask people this, the word feel comes out of their mouth, right? So all of the achievement and entrepreneurial success that they want to have, when I break it down, what is that going to give you? What is that going to give you? What is that going to give you? It always comes back to an emotion. Okay, so every external pursuit that we have is to derive an internal emotion. So Tony Robbins says success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure.
Wow.
Okay, and fulfillment is an emotion. So we help people to figure out what are your primary emotions, and then what are the entrepreneurial pursuits that you can do that would give you that emotion? And that's how you know when you're on purpose. It's not a thing to solve world cancer or this. It might be for people, but when you ask them, well, if you do this, what is going to do for you? What's this going to do for you? You're always going to come back to the word. I guarantee you 100% of the time, the word feel comes out of their mouth. I'll feel accomplished. I'll feel purposeful. I feel joy. I feel excitement. Okay, so emotions are really very critical. And then mindset, of course, is a different thing. It's still needed to work. So I often ask people, what's the most important part of a car? So I don't know if I could throw it back to you guys and see what you say. What do you think? The engine, the transmission, the wheels, the driver? What do you guys say?
I won't say there's any one most important part, because if it overheats, everything going through. If the battery not there, it can't start.
I would just throw the brakes.
I would say
Well,
I would say you put money spot there.
All right. So, but you were very close, Stuart. One of the best answers I've got. I asked people globally, and most people say the engine, but you were on it there, Stuart. And what I say is the most important part of the car is the part that is missing.
Oh, okay. All right.
So you're right. If the battery is missing, it becomes the most important part.
Right. Yeah. Because nothing happening.
Becomes the most important part. So therefore, the reason I bring that in is to share the context that you need different parts to be successful at entrepreneurship. You need emotionality, you need mindset, you need purpose, you need strategy, you need habits. So anyone that is missing is going to cause the car to fully move forward and get to your destination. Yeah. And that's one of the things I would say as a coach. That's what my real superpower is to help you to see that blind spot, to see something that is there that you're not seeing, that is missing, that is actually keeping you back from your full potential.
Perfect.
Wow. I mean, what can I say?
I just have one more question for the segment.
Of course.
I mean, obviously, well, not obviously, but I'm assuming, I don't like to assume, but assuming culture plays a big role in emotionality. What would you say would be the strengths and some of the weakness of the leaders in our region, in our Caribbean, as opposed to like in America, where they may not suffer as much as the imposter syndrome? They're a lot more braver than us in the Caribbean. They know to market themselves. Yeah. So what would you say are our strengths and weaknesses in terms of the emotions in our region specifically?
Well, Stuart, that's an absolutely amazing question. I'm so happy that you brought it up, because it's an issue that not a lot of people are talking about, but it directly impacts the people, the mental health issues of the Caribbean. And we suffer from generational trauma from colonialism. There's no doubt about it. Okay, and you could see certain factions, and you speak about the US, you'll see certain factions that do suffer the imposter syndrome, that do suffer the self-sabotage, and you will find that in common. So that is, I would say the greatest joy in my work is I get to, for the people who choose to do it, get to break that generational trauma. Right, and you're so absolutely right. We see it, but it just gets passed down and passed down and passed down because we just don't have the right, mindset towards it. I don't know. Up to today, I was commenting on a Facebook post about a very prominent association in Trinidad talking about anxiety and disorders, right? And my thing is that nobody has a disorder; they have a response,
right?
Okay,
to the trauma that they have gone
response.
through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trauma response.
And then I said about anxiety. People don't have anxiety; they make themselves anxious. Now that's kind of hard for some people to stomach. But I mean, what happens is that we basically make up a story in our head. We make up a movie, and it's full of color and sound and emotion, and we feel, based on a thought that we have. It's not a disorder, right? And if you quickly be able to process that and reorient it where it's processed in the brain, it could be gone in 10 to 15 minutes. Right. And someone asked me, Shane, do you have evidence of that? And I was like, yes, but I also mentioned that, the medical mafias control the media. Of course. So much so that people, and another post I remember last year, overcoming And someone wrote, did he just say like you could overcome these things? And I was like, wow, we are so far gone to think that we need to suffer with this for the rest of our lives. And the only thing that we can do is cope.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
you could get a pharmaceutical drug. You could use pharmaceuticals as well.
We have gone and how much work that we have to do, Stuart, but we have resilience, we have creativity. So as you speak about, the pluses and the minuses, that sort of thing, advantages, disadvantages that we have, I do think that we are very resilient, we are very creative,
Of course.
we're very adaptive, and that is what we can use. But that is going to be stymied if we don't do that emotionality work.
Yeah, that healing.
Yeah. We can't avoid it, and that's why we have so much health crises as well. Latest research shows, if you listen to Dr. Gabo Mate, he says that 99% of all medical issues, including physical health and mental health, is because of unresolved childhood trauma.
Wow.
Yeah.
99% has nothing to do with, nothing to do with genetics and all of that BS that we've been told. But great question, Stuart. I think it's something that really needs to be addressed in the region. We could be striving, but that is the thing that is going to be keeping us back from our greatest potential.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
And we have carnivals all over the Caribbean. And what I always say is that, we playing mass 24/7, 365, meaning that we have on this facade and we don't think that anything is wrong. And we quietly go and buy the drugs, we go over, and we buy it. And who knows if we buy in Prozac or not, right? And then, we make an appointment and we quickly slip into the psychologist's office and we slip back out and we're all fine.
Yeah, not dealing with the issue at all.
I tell you, if you try to make an appointment, you're going to have a 3 months wait. And that tells you a lot of what is going on. But we could talk on a whole episode about that story.
Definitely
That's a very intuitive and absolutely great question.
Thank you.
That needs addressed in the Caribbean.
And I mean, as both authors, Mr. Ram and Mr. Fortuny, I'm sure that we'll have some more dialogue about this probably in written form to come soon. So thank you very much for that very in-depth explanation, and thank you, Stuart, for touching on it. And I mean, folks, before we wrap up this segment, we just want to make sure that you understand, as entrepreneurs, business leaders, employees, wherever you're at on the spectrum, you're very important. And as Mr. Ram said earlier, you are an important part and piece of the puzzle and the overall picture. Stick around. We have more to come on the Big Potato Podcast. Whether you're seeking guidance or solutions for your business, we're here to help. Contact us via IBOMAQ868@gmail.com. That's IBOMAQ868@gmail.com. And let's discuss how we can collaborate for your success. And we are back on the Big Potato Podcast. That's right. This is your platform for you to get your energies up for entrepreneurship. That's right. So, we're jumping into what is quickly becoming people's favorite segment on this show. It's called Would You Rather? And it's a quick response game. You all know it, so we don't even need to explain. So I'll go first this week and I'll pose the question. Would you rather build a company that lasts 100 years or one that changes 1 million lives in just 10 years?
The latter, 1 billion lives.
Yeah, I agree because you could be here forever and make no social impact.
Perfect. So I guess my would you rather was a pretty simple one this week because depending on where you're at in life, maybe, some people do have that aspiration, I guess, of building something that would last forever. But I also believe that when you change the lives of others, that would also last many lifetimes.
And that has a big multiplier effect. It didn't just impact the people in the official count.
Yeah.
It impacted their families, it impacted the community.
Everybody.
So yeah, definitely. Well, let me see if I could catch you all with this one here. All right. So would you rather invest and help build an enterprise that's about to make its first million, or one that's about to make its first billion?
I'd say at this stage of my life, the first billion.
The first billion? All right.
Yeah.
Any reason? Because of the stage of your life?
Yeah. If I was younger, I'd probably go, on the 1 million side. But, looking to build, generational wealth at this stage, I would, make an investment. So, a smaller investment in a bigger company is going to be worth, a bigger investment in a smaller company.
Okay.
True.
Nicely said.
I go in for the max, 1 billion. That's the kind of impact that we want to create, So why stop at 1 million?
They're going for the max.
Going for the max.
I would prefer the company that's about to make its first million.
Right.
Because assumptions again, I would assume the company that's about to make its first billion, the ownership might be tied up in a lot of the issues. It'll be complicated. The life cycle, where it is in the life cycle, might be different to where this other company is. I think I might have more room to really grow a smaller company. I mean, it's about to make its first million.
So it isn't that small.
It's not that.
Yeah.
It might be small, but it's not struggling. It's already past the litmus test.
Right.
And it's continuing to expand. So I think myself as an investor would be able to get a higher rate of return on my investment there than you were. Okay, so you make your first million. It's easy. You can reach the billion, but if you make your first billion, where you going to make $1 billion, $1 billion and $1,
We're going for more. You're going 2 billion.
I think there's a lot more room for growth on the smaller company.
On the million.
And again, me to get the return on investment, I think it'll be higher for me in that. But again, to each his own, and there's no right and wrong answer.
Of course. And I mean, I think it was important that what was said as well is where you are at currently, and because that would also kind of dictate what your goals, your next set of goals are to achieve. So that's Would You Rather this week. And we are keeping it cooking one time with the interview because it's going fantastic. Bombs are dropping, lots of insights, lots of food for thought, I believe, especially in the last segment. And I just want to get into a little bit about the actual leadership, coaching and mentoring, that aspect of it, which obviously is in line with the work that you do, as you mentioned before. Why is this important for business leaders? Why is this important for entrepreneurs? Why is this important for anybody? Really and truly, we again went through a school system here where you don't hear about that sort of stuff unless it's a sport. The word coach doesn't come up unless you're talking about sports and so on. And then you get into organizational culture and you start hearing about coaching and, so give us an understanding of what it is and why is it important?
Well, that's a great question, Kendell. And I think that it's super important because I use a local parlance to say, monkey can't see their own tail, right? And one of the things I start off with when I do leadership coaching is something called the Johari window, right? And it's about the fact that we have blind spots and unknown. So basically, we are not aware of half of the things about ourselves, our behaviors, our personality, our reactions, that sort of thing. So that's a really important part of coaching, which I see a lot of leaders lack, right? Which is self-awareness is so critical. The irony is that you cannot become self-aware by yourself, right? Because you cannot see yourself, as we say, monkey can't see their own tail.
Yes.
And that, I think, as a starting point, as self-awareness is critical in terms of having a coach, okay, or a mentor. And you have to be open and vulnerable to be able to take feedback. And I could tell you, Stuart, culturally as well, because I coach all across the globe, in the Caribbean in particular, because we get beat up so often all the time, we have a beat up culture. We sort of just don't want to hear it anymore. Whereas, like I have a client in Rome, for example, and I thought it was so refreshing. She was like, yeah, bring on the feedback so I could know what I need to improve on. right?
Yeah.
So I could know. Whereas, in the Caribbean, how they could say that people get very, very defensive when it comes to feedback, rather than seeing it as an opportunity to grow. And that is one of the reasons that there's still a low take-up of coaching in the Caribbean. The other thing that it does, and again, we bought into the whole idea, and the school system and most of the systems that we have lead us to think that we are only worthy and really successful if we are self-made, right? And I said that's a crazy concept. If you ever listen to ultra successful people, they don't ever say that they are self-made. Is that other people ascribe that to them, because we started off speaking about collaboration, right? And one of the greatest collaborations that you could ever have is your coach or your mentor, okay? Right. And I studied a lot of ultra successful people in a lot of detail, right? And I could tell you the common denominator was that they all had a coach and a mentor. Okay, if you look at Tony Robbins, for example, I was talking to someone the other day, and they said, well, Tony didn't start off with much, and he made it. And I said, yes, but while he didn't have much, he had one of the most valuable things ever, which was a mentor, right? And who he worked with. So in his early career, he worked with Jim Rohn, right? Jim Rohn at that time was the top high performance coach or whatever, motivational speaker in the world, and getting to work with him was invaluable.
Right.
Okay, invaluable. So, these are some of the, I guess everybody have their cognitive biases. So, but those are the things I would pick up when I read about, people who have achieved the success that I want to achieve, and understand it. And that is the common theme that I have seen, that they have all had, mentors. And if you listen to Jim Rohn, you could go back, it's all there on YouTube. He'll talk about Mr. Schultz. Yeah. And what he learned from Mr. Schultz. And if you go probably talk to Mr. Schultz, he'll have another name that he learned from, and on and on and on. We miss that. We miss that. We feel that, we only worthy if we are self-made, and no one is ever self-made. I said, not even us. We had to have, two other people had to have sex for us to exist.
Into this world. Right?
So we're not even self-made.
Yeah. But I want to touch on the feedback loop as well, because yes, everything is personal to us. You're given touchy. We touchy. It's feedback, which all companies design feedback loops so that you have the right information to better improve your service, your offering to the customer. So we, as human beings, should have the same. Be able to take the feedback and offer better value to the people around us. We shouldn't take it personal. Not everything is personal, but again, it's the mindset.
Well, it's more than the mindset, Stuart, is the emotionality. That's why we're touchy.
Is why we have an expert? Yeah. The emotionality.
Right. And I agree with you. Culturally, we are very touchy. And I remember, I was working with Digicel, and I, head of HR, and I was dealing with payroll, and there was a, difference of opinion. I thought, I decide the pay, and your job is to pay, right? In payroll, I am, as the HR person, decide that, and I believe they were questioning why, I gave that particular salary or something like that, and we had a difference of opinion, and 1 minute after, the lady was going to the kitchen, and she's like, Shane, you want a cup of tea or something? right? And I was still there kind of fuming, and as we say, in feelings. And, I realized, it's not personal. And that was again, this happened, over 20 years ago. And so these are the memories that I take and I learn from it. And that's really important. What can you learn from the experiences that you have? And I realized that business is not personal.
It's not.
And I'm really happy that you spoke about feedback. One of my mentors always said, feedback is the breakfast of champions. And I think it's critical. And again, I always want to frame it in an entrepreneurial sense. As an entrepreneur, you could be a sole trader even. which most times you start off as a solopreneur. And for example, I saw on social media a few times, especially recently, again, we're highly sensitive, where entrepreneurs are literally in the comments blowing out, for a lack of a better term, their customers for having opinions about their product or their service. And they are not embracing the feedback. Of course, yes, we all want constructive feedback. We all want positive feedback. But there is feedback that sometimes is not going to come across, the way that we expect it to be. But it can help us to, as you said, learn from those experiences, appreciate a different opinion and perspective, and ultimately help us to improve ourselves and our offerings.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. And I think that should be the goal of everyone, to improve as they go along and improve your business as you go along as well.
I mean, if you improve yourself, I improve myself, Shane improve himself, and every single person keep working on improving themselves, what would the world look like in 5 years, right?
Some billionaires.
Yeah. I'm not talking about the money-wise. I'm talking about the improvement,
Exactly. But much better place.
Let me touch on the...
Stuart, before you go on, I just want to add to that, right? One of the things that I do, I tell people I spend probably an irresponsible amount of money every year to get coaching. I find that the best people in the world at the thing I need to learn.
Right.
So for example, I would say that my marketing worked, well over the years to bring in customers, but I realized that there was still a lot of room, and I didn't really, do sales per se, right? And I realized that was a gap in my business. And last year I went, Grant Cardone is the best sales trainer and sales training company in the world, and that's who I went.
Right.
So I think entrepreneurs in their budgeting and in their planning need to have monies set aside for development.
Yeah.
I agree.
So back-to-back episodes, we've heard our guests reiterate that planning as entrepreneurs or financial planning, we need to set aside some funds for personal development and, of course, our business development as well.
I agree. It's very important. But let me switch it up a little bit, and let me touch on the book some more. The Future Ready. All right. So in the book, there are 8 strategies. I want to know of the 8 strategies. I know we can't discuss 8 strategies right now. So of the 8, which one do you think is the one that we again are focusing on us in the Caribbean? We're not talking about different cultures because it's our entrepreneurs we're trying to uplift. Which one do you think we struggle with the most of the 8? And if you want to briefly discuss the 8, that's fine as well.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't go through all of them. But I always like to start where I started in the beginning, which is, the first chapter is called "Slow Down to Speed Up."
To speed up,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do we do when we slow down? Is that we really take a look at ourselves and self-analyze. I give you an example, and when I present the strategies via training and, keynotes and that sort of thing, I have this image that I share with, these guys pushing a wheelbarrow with some square wheels, right? And 2 other persons came with some round wheels and offered them, and it's like, no, we're too busy to change the wheels, right? And, that happens a lot. So I remember I met a CEO Sunday evening, and after he finished his presentation, he's like, okay, guys, let's go online because my last week now finished.
Right.
Right.
Wow. And
I said, well, during the week, I'll drop a copy of my book for you. And he said, yeah, but when am I going to find time to read it? Right. So that's chapter 1, and I always think that we need to slow down and really look at ourselves, analyze ourselves and our businesses. And then, all the other strategies could come into to place. We have strategies like, disrupting yourself, but you need to understand yourself before you disrupt yourself and have the confidence to disrupt yourself, to disrupt the industry. I think something that could move us on very, very quickly here is chapter 8 about tapping into intuition, because all human beings have it, right? And now I call it instinct, intelligence, and intuition, right? And now intelligence is, a commodity. You can have it on your phone. It's everywhere. It's not going to be a differentiator.
No,
right?
not.
But over the years, people like Steve Jobs, and I believe truly that they were able to tap into that intuition, right? So that's some of the work that I do also with entrepreneurs, to really take them up to higher levels. That's where the Go for 10 comes in, where we tap into higher levels of consciousness and awareness. That's when you're really going for 10, when you really understand your human potential and what you're made of, and tapping into, higher states of awareness, higher states of consciousness. That's what we do when, entrepreneurs, to get to their highest potential, is to, as Robin Sharma says, see what everyone sees, but think what no one else thinks. Right? So that intelligence, and we read, but we need like a higher level processor to process that information, to come up with, our unique perspective on things, and to trust that this is where we go into a little bit of spirituality, where, God wouldn't allow you to think about something that wasn't possible for you.
Right. It would even come into your psyche.
Tap into that, and that is like almost like guaranteed success, because that is never going to fail.
Right.
Instead of relying on our own intelligence that is skewed by emotionality.
No, I agree definitely. I think slowing down might be as you said, the most important thing, because how could you say you have no time to read a book that's going to improve you? But I'm sure you have time. And the person wanted to go to take a drink in the bar. He had time for that, right?
De-stress.
I mean, sometimes you just have to do it. You just have to refresh yourself. But you could always find time for worthwhile ventures.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people talking about burnout, and I say, burnout is really when you're pursuing something outside of your purpose.
Exactly. This man preaching, Kendell.
Preaching. All he is missing is a pulpit right now. I'm telling you guys, this is a fantastic episode, an important episode on leadership. And really and truly, we just using that broad topic of leadership, but it's really about developing ourselves in order to be the best version of ourselves, in order to be the best entrepreneurs that we can be, and whatever your other goals are in life.
Best
so we're coming, the best
people.
humans.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, we close to the end. So before we wrap up, you mentioned Go for 10, and, possibly you could give our audience some insight into that.
Sure. So, just a little bit in terms of how the idea came about, So someone was asking me about my drive that they think that I have, right? So I said, I came from, like I gave an example in terms of university. And I think that's where I really started to, come into my own, that sort of thing. Early years, I sort of struggled, in primary school, they didn't think I was smart enough to pass for a 5-year. They told me to put a junior sec on the list, that sort of thing. But, having grown up in poverty, almost dying of starvation when I was 5 years old, I don't remember that, but my mom told me about it. But I do remember having to study for my common entrance with a pitchoy lamp, right? So for me, in like 0 to 10, so to speak, right? Yes. I felt like, I could not fail because of what my parents had to do to sacrifice to be able to afford for me to go to university. So I was just kind of knocking it out. And it just came out of me that, coming from, 0, 1 is, somewhere low on the scale.
Yeah.
And like most people will settle at 7. And feel that they have a good life. And what I said is basically I go for 10, at anything that I do. I'm just pursuing that. I'm not settling, right? I may not always get there, but I'm not settling.
Yeah.
Okay, and I see a lot of people settle, for less than what they can achieve. They settle for a middle management job. They settle in the middle. Really, when Go for 10 is about going for the top, and people over history, over time have shown that they have risen and could become, the top at anything. And as a matter of fact, those are the people who intrigue us the most, right? From rags to riches, it's more appealing to us than people who had it made already, for example. So what we do is that we get people, we figure out what level they are in every area of their life, from entrepreneurship to health to finances and that sort of thing, and we create and craft a plan for them to get to their highest potential. And it's about understanding who we are. It's like getting to self-actualization, understanding how powerful we are, tapping into the subconscious mind. When we speak about mindset, I said, well, we don't have a mindset, we have mindsets, because we have two minds. We have a conscious mind, we have a subconscious mind. How we could really tap into that, leave a legacy. What's the legacy that you want to leave on this earth? So that's where where the air is rare, to use your terminology, Kendell. When you have, as Tony Robbins says, you climb the mountain. So in my book, I have the tale of two mountains, right? So everybody's climbing this mountain of success and, financial gain and moving up the corporate ladder. And then when you get there, you realize this ain't it, right? There's another mountain of fulfillment and legacy and operating from higher levels of consciousness and that sort of thing, right? But the thing is that you can't see that second mountain until you reach on top the first one, right? So that's what Going for 10 is all about, figuring out where you are and getting you from mountaintop to mountaintop to mountaintop.
Fantastic, and I appreciate that. I mean, this is something, just as we said all episode long, that I usually call Stuart the master of the words, the definitions. But Mr. Ram, you surely have brought it tonight. And I mean, picking back up from the Go for 10, I really appreciate you for sharing that with us. I think it's something that can benefit even us on this podcast, and also all of our audience as well, because we have so much work to do, because we have so much potential, that if we resolve certain issues, we get past some of the trauma, as we talked about before, and we really just aim for the top. We really see ourselves being in the position at the top, at the pinnacle, to get on that purposeful fulfillment path is important.
The top of the correct mountain.
The top of the correct mountain.
Could find a way to let people understand that there's a second mountain behind there before they start to climb the first mountain, before they start to exert all that energy. Understand there's a bigger mountain behind there. You might want to climb this one, but take your time. This is not a big challenge in your life. That one is the one you need to dedicate your energies to. So I want to wrap up with one quick question. What is one bold prediction for the future of leadership in Caribbean? Or outlandish prediction? It could be high risk, it could be low risk of actually coming to pass, but what do you think outlandish prediction for the Caribbean leadership could be?
Well, I think that we have the potential, if we come together, as you suggest, to really make an impact in the world. I think we have a lot of things in the Caribbean that, that other mountain that you're talking about, that a lot of people around the world still crave. And I think if we have leaders who understand the value of what we have, be able to communicate it well. Communication is a really important tool for leadership. I really think that collaboration is the key to coming together, where as the world changes, the world, 2025 is a very significant time in the changing of the world, where people are looking more at the quality of life versus the quality the quality of life versus the quantity of life. And I think a lot of times in the Caribbean, we may have found that balance. As last week I was in Dominica, and I was like, it's so different from Trinidad. It's still natural, it's still quiet. And someone asked me if I'll go back, and I said I'll probably do that if I want 2 weeks of absolute quiet where I could slow down and think and marinate and manifest ideas. I'll go there.
Right. Slow down to speed up there.
Yep. That's what we have, and I think people are valuing that more and more in life. And how that connects to leadership is understanding different value systems and expanding. I speak about this in one of the chapters in my book, Redefining Success, which I speak about moving from success. So you have survival. So in my Go for 10, I always have 3 levels, right? Survival, success, and now significance, right? And it's good for entrepreneurs, good for leaders to figure out, how could I be significant in the world? How could I be significant to my customers? How could I be significant to my employees? So it's called new measures of success. Right. So it's beyond success now. And as you know, it's going to attract the right people. That's what the millennials are, concerned about, is that not your business is just not successful, but it's being significant in the world. And I think that's what we can do in terms of Caribbean leadership. We have a long way to go, but final story, right? I did some work down in Papua New Guinea back in maybe 2008, and they were like the last civilization ever to be discovered, right? And I met this guy at dinner one night, and he's from Singapore, and a Singapore bank would have bought over the bank, a bank in Papua New Guinea. And I was like, why are you so excited? Isn't this going to be like hard work to bring this, this last civilization into the standard that, Singapore is at? And he said something that have stuck with me up till today, is that, when you're behind, and the way that technology and information is now democratized, everybody has it, you don't need to go through the different iterations.
Right.
You just adopt the best practice and you're in the game, right? And although we are considered a third world region, the fact is that with technology, information, artificial intelligence at our fingertips, we should be able to make that transition into, just call it first world, but that top level way of thinking and being and significance, we have access to it, and it doesn't have to take a long time. And, I joke with people that I have a iPhone 6 just because I don't want anything bigger in my pocket. It's uncomfortable, right? And people laugh at me. But here's what, I could go buy a 15 tomorrow and I'm in the game, right? So I don't have to buy a 7 or 8 or 9, if there were, right? I don't even know, right? But my point is that you don't have to go through
the iterations. Yes.
And this is what we have in the Caribbean offered to us. It's up to us to take the opportunity. It's offered to us, right? It's information, knowledge is democratized. It's easily available. It's just whether we wish to take it.
Yeah, fully agreed. In fact, it kind of ties into what caught my eye with the C-suite.
Of
they
course.
put in technology at the center of the room. It's not on the periphery anymore. It's at the center because, as Mr. Ram said, that is your jump, your leap, where you could jump over many hurdles and many steps that you would have had to go through initially. But now we just
plug and play.
This is the latest version, 2025. We were running 2020. We were running 2008 version. Boom, upgrade. And we're there. We in the game.
Was it an iPhone 6 that you also...
We have similarities. I recently went from a 6S to... I didn't even go all the way up. I just went to a 14 Pro. Yeah. Right? I mean, we're not advertising for these people. But I was able to make a job. And I didn't even need to go all the way because I didn't think... require that level of jump. So you can choose where you want to fit in.
Yep, because as he said, all the iterations are already there. The tried and true. And what was perfectly reminded to our audience and entrepreneurs there, that I don't even have to say it, is that opportunity exists and it is ripe for us here in the Caribbean. Folks, it has been beautiful. Mr. Shane Ram, I would like to thank you so much for joining us on the Big Potato Podcast tonight. Thank you for being here and thank you for sharing all of these insights. As we usually tell all of our guests in Trinidad, in Trini parlance, what we tell them?
We gotta bring you back.
We had to bring you back. Right?
Because we say it every single time, but this is a topic that I think we kind of just scratched the surface of.
Of course.
There's a lot more depth we could go into.
Of course. Make sure and you can check out Mr. Shane Ram on his website. You could give it to them as well, Mr. Ram.
Yeah. Simple. It's shaneram.com. SHANERAM. I want to thank you guys. Some really great questions. And that always makes a podcast. And you all did your research and your homework. And that showed in the questions that you asked. So good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And we look forward to being in close contact as we go forward as well. We usually like to keep our guests in a nice little network because, as you said, collaboration is what is going to make it happen. So, folks, another episode in the books. Stuart, thank you so much as usual.
As ChatGPT would say, we were thrilled.
We were thrilled, my friend.
Everything is thrilled. Right?
Until next time, do well and remember, work on your mindset and emotionality.
Entrepreneurship, it's all game. The Big Potato Podcast is yours to claim. From startups